It was a quiet town, the kind where everyone knew everyone. At the edge of the neighborhood sat an old playground, overgrown with weeds and surrounded by rusting fences. No one used it anymore. Parents warned their children to stay away, claiming it was unsafe. But the real reason? Whispers of something darker. To 12-year-old Lily, it was just a forgotten place, until that summer evening. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue across the playground as Lily and her friends wandered past it. "Bet you won't go inside," Sam teased, tossing a rock at the rusty swing set. Lily rolled her eyes. "It's just a playground. What's the big deal?" "There's something weird about it," Emma mumbled, shivering despite the warm air. "My brother says kids used to disappear there, years ago." "Disappear?" Lily scoffed. "That's just a story to keep kids out." But something about the silence of the place tugged at her curiosity. The swings swayed gently, though there was no wind. The merry-go-round sat perfectly still, yet it almost seemed to hum. Sam grinned. "I dare you to go touch the slide." Lily hesitated. The slide stood at the far end of the playground, shrouded in shadow as the sun dipped lower. It looked ordinary, yet something about it seemed wrong. "Fine," she said, squaring her shoulders. "I'll do it." As Lily stepped through the broken gate, the air seemed to grow heavy. The laughter of her friends behind her faded, and all she could hear was the crunch of gravel under her feet. She reached the slide and rested her hand on its metal surface. It was ice cold, and then, faintly, she heard it, a whisper, soft and distant, like the voice of a child calling her name. "Lily." She spun around, her heart pounding. The playground was empty, her friends still waiting near the gate. "Did you hear that?" she called out. "Hear what?" Sam shouted back, frowning. Lily turned back to the slide. For a moment, she thought she saw something at the top, a small figure staring down at her. But when she blinked, it was gone. Lily took a step back from the slide, her skin prickling. The metal surface still felt unnaturally cold, as if it had been sitting in the shadows for hours, even though the summer heat hadn't faded. She turned and jogged back toward her friends. "I'm done. Let's get out of here." Sam smirked. "What's wrong? You look spooked." "I heard something," Lily muttered, glancing back over her shoulder. The playground was still, eerily still. It sounded like someone whispering. Emma's face paled. "I told you it's haunted." "It's just the wind," Sam said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Or your imagination playing tricks." Lily didn't respond. Something had been there. She was sure of it. The way the figure at the top of the slide had appeared for that split second, then vanished, sent chills through her. "Let's just go home," Emma said nervously, already backing away from the fence. But as they turned to leave, the sound of creaking metal cut through the air. They froze. Slowly, all three of them turned back toward the playground. The swing, one single swing, was moving. It creaked back and forth, higher and higher, as though someone invisible was sitting in it. "There's no wind," Emma whispered, her voice shaking. Lily felt her chest tighten as a shadow moved across the ground beneath the swing. It was faint but unmistakable, a small figure's shadow, with legs dangling and a head slightly tilted to the side. The swing slowed, and the creaking stopped. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air, and then they heard it. "Come play with me." The voice was soft and childlike, but there was something chilling beneath it, something wrong. It echoed faintly, as though the words were coming from far away, or everywhere at once. Lily's legs felt rooted to the spot. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Emma grabbed Lily's arm. "Let's go. Now." Before anyone could move, a sharp metallic screech pierced the air. The merry-go-round at the center of the playground began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. No one was pushing it. Sam's face had gone white. "Run." And this time they did. Lily, Sam, and Emma sprinted away from the playground, their footsteps pounding against the cracked pavement. The chilling voice and the sound of the creaking merry-go-round echoed in Lily's mind, but she didn't dare look back. They didn't stop until they reached the edge of the neighborhood, gasping for breath under the flickering glow of a streetlight. The air here felt lighter, safer, as though they had escaped whatever strange force lingered back there. What was that? Sam finally choked out, his bravado from earlier completely gone. Emma clung to Lily's arm, her face pale. I told you it was haunted. We should have never gone in there. Did you see the swing? That shadow? Lily nodded, still trying to catch her breath. And the merry-go-round. I swear it was spinning on its own. And the voice, what was that? Sam shook his head. It was probably just, I don't know. Maybe someone was hiding in there, messing with us. Messing with us? Emma shot back, her voice shrill. Did you see anyone? There was no one there. A cold shiver ran down Lily's spine as she remembered the shadow under the swing and the faint figure at the top of the slide. We need to stay away from that place. Promise me you won't go back. Sam didn't argue. The playground didn't seem like a joke anymore. As they walked home, the town felt different, quieter, like it was holding its breath. When Lily finally reached her front door, she turned to her friends. We're done with this, right? It's over. Sam nodded weakly. Emma looked at Lily with wide eyes but said nothing. Lily stepped inside her house, locking the door behind her. The lights were on. Her family was watching TV in the living room, and everything looked normal. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her home. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the faint hum of crickets outside her window the only sound. She tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, just kids spooking themselves over a dumb playground. Then, from the far corner of her room, she heard it. A soft creak, like the sound of an old swing moving back and forth. Lily froze, her heart hammering in her chest. Slowly, she turned her head toward the corner of the room. It was dark, too dark. The shadows seemed to shift, and for a split second, she thought she saw the outline of something small, sitting still and watching her. And then, in a soft, sing-song voice, it whispered, "Come play with me." Lily bolted upright in bed, fumbling for the lamp on her nightstand. Light flooded the room, and the shadows retreated. There was nothing there, but as she stared at the corner where the voice had come from, her blood ran cold. Sitting on the floor was an old, dusty toy, a small, porcelain doll she had never seen before. Its glassy eyes stared blankly ahead, its lips curled into a faint, frozen smile, and on the doll's tiny, cracked arm, there was something written. Playground, 3 a.m. Lily couldn't breathe. The doll's cracked porcelain face and its glassy, unblinking eyes seemed to peer straight through her. The words on its arm, playground, 3 a.m. burned into her mind. She scrambled off her bed, backing away until her back hit the wall. "Where did you come from?" she whispered, as though the doll could answer. Her bedroom door creaked open, and her mom poked her head in. "Lily, what's wrong? I heard you scream." Lily pointed at the doll on the floor. Where did that come from?" Her mom frowned, glancing at the empty space Lily pointed to. "What are you talking about? There's nothing there." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? The doll. It's right there." Her mom sighed. "Lily, you've been up too late. You probably had a bad dream. Go back to bed, okay?" Lily opened her mouth to argue, but her mom had already shut the door. The room was silent again. Slowly, Lily turned her gaze back to where the doll had been. It was gone. The spot on the floor was empty, the only sign of disturbance being faint scuff marks, like something small had been dragged across the wooden floor. Lily sat on her bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin. She wouldn't sleep. She couldn't sleep. Her eyes darted around the room, searching the shadows for any sign of movement. The hours crawled by, and every creak or faint rustle made her jump. She checked the clock. 2:45 a.m. 15 minutes until 3 a.m. Her thoughts kept circling back to the words etched on the doll's arm. Playground. 3 a.m. It felt like a warning, or maybe an invitation. She told herself she wasn't going back. But as the clock ticked closer to 3, something strange happened. The air in her room grew colder. The faint creaking sound began again, as if a swing were swaying back and forth. Then the whispers returned. Soft, distant. "Lily, come play with me." The voice echoed faintly from outside her window. Trembling, Lily crept to the window and peeked through the curtains. The street was empty, bathed in pale moonlight. But her heart stopped when she saw it. In the distance, beyond the houses, the playground was visible, its rusted structures lit faintly by the moon. And there, on the swing, sat a small figure. It was too far away to see clearly, but Lily knew. It was the doll. The swing moved slowly, as though it were beckoning her. The clock struck 3 a.m. A sudden knock rattled her window. It was soft, like tiny porcelain fingers tapping against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. Lily stumbled back, her hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. When she dared look again, the window was fogged up, and scrawled in the condensation were 2 words: "Come play." Lily stood frozen, staring at the words etched into the foggy glass. "Come play." Her legs refused to move, her body locked in place by sheer terror. The whispers started again, louder this time. "Lily, we're waiting." The voice came from everywhere. Inside her room, outside the window, in her ears, and even in her own thoughts. Her breathing quickened, and she stumbled backward, clutching her blanket like it could somehow protect her. Suddenly, the whispers stopped. Silence hung heavy in the air, more terrifying than any sound. Then she heard it, a faint creak, the sound of a swing moving. It wasn't outside anymore. It was inside her room. She turned slowly toward the corner where the doll had first appeared. And there it was. The porcelain doll sat on her bedroom floor, rocking back and forth in an invisible swing. Its blank, glassy eyes were fixed on Lily, and its faint smile seemed wider than before. Lily felt her throat tighten, her pulse racing. The doll's small hand lifted, no, jerked, and pointed at her. "Time to play," it whispered, its lips moving for the first time. The lights in her room flickered violently, and before she could scream, her vision blurred. A wave of dizziness crashed over her, and the room seemed to tilt. She felt herself falling, tumbling backward into nothingness, until she hit solid ground. Lily opened her eyes and gasped. She was no longer in her bedroom. She was back at the playground. The rusted swings creaked in the cool night air, and the merry-go-round sat still, bathed in the pale glow of the moon. The cold gravel beneath her hands confirmed it. She was really here. "Hello," she called out, her voice shaking. From behind her, the familiar sing-song voice echoed across the playground. "Lily, come play with us." She spun around and saw them. Children, at least half a dozen of them, all standing perfectly still in the shadows. Their faces were obscured, but their small figures were unmistakable. One child stepped forward, holding something in its hands. As it came closer, Lily realized what it was. The porcelain doll. The child's face came into view under the moonlight, and Lily's breath caught in her throat. Its face wasn't human. It was cracked porcelain, just like the doll's, with empty black holes where its eyes should have been. Its mouth stretched into a jagged, unnatural smile. "Play with us forever," the child whispered. Lily stumbled back, her heart pounding. "No, stay away from me." But the other figures began moving closer, their footsteps silent. their porcelain faces emerging one by one. They surrounded her, their whispers overlapping. "Stay here, Lily. We've been waiting for you. Play with us forever." Lily screamed, her voice echoing into the night. She turned and ran toward the gate, her only chance of escape. But when she reached it, the gate was no longer there. In its place stood the doll, its cracked face tilted to one side. Its glassy eyes stared into hers, and its lips moved again, whispering one last time, "You can't leave." Lily's chest tightened as the porcelain doll's whisper echoed in her ears. "You can't leave." The playground seemed to stretch endlessly around her, the rusted swings swaying in the wind, the merry-go-round creaking faintly. The shadowy children inched closer, their porcelain faces gleaming under the moonlight. "No!" Lily screamed, backing away. "This isn't real. Let me out." The doll tilted its head, its cracked smile widening as if mocking her fear. The shadows darkened, pulling together like ink seeping across the gravel, swirling around her ankles. Lily tried to move, but her feet were stuck, sinking into the ground like quicksand. "Play with us forever," the children chanted softly, their voices overlapping in an eerie hum. Lily struggled harder, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want to. I don't belong here." The doll stepped forward, its tiny porcelain hands reaching out as though inviting her into its eternal grasp. "Once you hear the whispers," it said in a sing-song voice, "you're part of the playground. Forever." Lily closed her eyes, refusing to believe it. She thought of her family, her friends, her house just down the street. This wasn't where she was supposed to be. She screamed with everything she had. "No, you can't have me." The ground beneath her trembled. The wind howled, whipping through the rusted playground like a raging storm. Lily's scream grew louder, and the shadows recoiled, screeching in anger. The doll's glassy eyes flickered. Cracks spread further across its face as the shadows seemed to lose their grip. For the first time, the doll's voice faltered. "No, stop." With one final, desperate cry, Lily yanked her feet free and ran. The children's whispers grew frantic behind her. The doll's voice screeched in fury, but she didn't look back. Ahead, the gate reappeared, a rusted, broken outline that she hadn't seen before. Light spilled through its bars, warm and familiar. Lily sprinted toward it, her lungs burning, her legs aching. As her fingers touched the gate, she felt the shadows clawing at her heels, the whispers begging her to stop. But she threw herself through the opening and landed hard on the soft grass outside the playground. The night was still. The playground was quiet again, its structures unmoving, lifeless under the moon. The whispers had stopped. The shadows were gone. Lily lay there, gasping for breath, staring at the now empty playground. The doll was nowhere to be seen. She forced herself to stand, her legs trembling as she stumbled back toward the street. The playground shrank in the distance behind her, and for the first time, she felt like she was truly awake. When she reached her house, the first rays of dawn were breaking through the sky. She climbed into bed, the warmth of her room finally chasing the chill from her bones. Lily never spoke of the playground again, but sometimes, on quiet nights, she swore she could still hear it, the faint creak of a swing moving back and forth in the wind. And just before she drifted to sleep, a voice would whisper in her dreams, "We're still waiting, Lily. The end. Ghost."